win for me. Anytime I can connect with a kiddo, be it educationally or otherwise, that's where I feel the most success.
Well, you're gifted, very gifted in that area. I've seen you turn around many kids that refuse to talk to people or throwing things or complete biting, kicking, running around, whatever. And I've never not seen you be able to deal with it.
I appreciate that. I don't know, I don't know why, but those are the ones, those ones that are the most difficult for me are the easiest to love, really.
To love. And then they get a hold of your heart.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
So you're listening to Nichole Maas, veteran ESE teacher, who is sharing her tired. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I hope you wake up and stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Devery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Devery.
Hey guys, it's Trina Devery from Trina Devery Teaching and Learning. This is episode 3 of One Tired Teacher. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Nichole Maas, who is a resource teacher for one of the largest elementary schools in Florida. It has over 1,300 students, and that's only K through 5th grade, so it's pretty big. We're going to take a look at an ESE perspective. Sometimes in the midst of our exhaustion, we can't see the tired perspective of others. So let's get started. I'm so glad that you're here, Nichole. We have had a long story together of working together and also friendship and being Keaton's, your daughter's teacher in 2nd grade. And now she's in 11th grade, which is crazy.
Long time, yes. Many years. I'm old, yes.
Yeah, no, well, we both are, but Anyway.
It happens.
So, I would like to know, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I have been a special education teacher for my entire career, which is, oh my gosh, if I have to think back, 23, going on 24 years of teaching. I started out in Hillsborough County in Florida and then taught for 8 years in Texas and 13 years. So a long time, and every single second of it has been in special education. So,
wow. What about in Texas? Were you?
I was actually a resource teacher. Texas started my resource teaching career. I, prior to that, had always done self-contained. I even did, at one point, coming out of college, I did pre-K special needs. So I had 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, but it was always self-contained up until I went to Texas.
Wow,
so.
3, 4, and 5-year-olds. Yeah. I can't even imagine.
That's where I started.
And so you always knew that special education was going to be...
Yes, it was what I decided when I decided. Actually, I changed my major in college. I wanted to be an audiologist, and just couldn't hack the biology and anatomy courses. So a guidance counselor there kind of steered me towards education, and it was special education, and I just, ever since, that's what I've done.
Wow.
So.
Well, I know, speaking from experience with you, that you're phenomenal. You're unbelievable. Watching you, seriously, is like watching magic happen. That's it's true. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to share some things that you're thinking about, because I just think what you have to say is so important, and I just think that it should be shared with others.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome, and it's true. So, why did you choose to be a teacher?
Honestly, I don't know that there was any one pivotal second in my life that I said, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. But I can tell you that as a child, that was my play. That's what I did all the time growing up, is I played teacher. So I don't know. I guess just something led me there. Not sure what. Again, a guidance counselor, when I decided audiology was not for me and they mentioned education, I was kind of like, yeah, that might be something I could do. So I don't really have a big story of how I landed there. I just kind of did. But obviously it was...
But play, if it was something that you played. I mean, I did the same thing. Like, I played teacher to my poor brother, who was always the bad student.
Oh. So. See, I just had stuffed animals. I had no brothers and sisters, so I just had stuffed animals as my students. But
yeah. Well, I played mean teacher. I was like, well, I don't know why I was so mean.
That's
and then,
funny.
like, he would not want to play with me, so I would let him be the principal.
Oh.
So then he would play again.
That's great.
Oh, anyway. Oh, so what do you feel is the most rewarding part of teaching?
Oh, by far the relationships you make with kids. For me, that's the most rewarding. And I think that because my kids, the ones that I work with, tend to be the ones that are the hardest to form relationships with, it's a win for me. Anytime I can connect with a kiddo, be it educationally or otherwise, that's where I feel the most success.
Well, you're gifted, very gifted in that area. I've seen you turn around many kids that refuse to talk to people or throwing things or complete biting, kicking, running around, whatever. And I've never not seen you be able to deal with it.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know, I don't know why, but those are the ones, those ones that are the most difficult for me are the easiest to love, really.
To love. And then they, like, get a hold of your heart.
They do.
Yeah.
Just recently, I actually heard a story of one of my kids, gosh, it ages me so much when I think about this, but that I had in 5th grade that is currently doing really well in high school.
Oh.
And I saw his parents, and they remembered me, which was cool, and, told me all about how he's loving school now. And so that's kind of
Yeah,
good.
no,
Those are good
that's
stories.
great.
I don't
That's
hear them
really-
very often.
I was just going to ask that.
Not
if
very
you get a
often.
chance to hear back from, because sometimes when kids come back to visit, they'll go back to, like, their classroom teacher that they spent a lot of time with.
Right.
But
And
I
then-
would still think that they would have a special place in their heart. For you.
Sometimes it is, but I mean, living in the community makes a big difference, because I mean, literally last night I saw one of the students that I had maybe 11 years ago is a
Wow.
bagger at Publix, so I mean, he's in high school now, and he didn't recognize me, but I recognized him. So
Oh, that's funny.
living in the same place that you teach or within just a few miles makes a big difference about keeping those connections too.
You're right. And it's kind of like being a rock star in your own community.
Sometimes. Depends on the age of the kid, I guess.
So, speaking of, like, of kids that need extra services or need special attention or need something more, which I actually think is true for almost all kids. Every kid. I actually do think it's true for every kid. Every kid needs something different sometimes. But in this case, like, it's specific things. How important do you think it is to follow kids' accommodations?
Wow, it's incredibly important, and it's again, talking about this is two-sided, because I know that what I do is, as a resource teacher, is very different than what a classroom teacher does, but I also feel like I have a good handle on both perspectives. At least I try. But accommodations for kids are absolutely imperative, especially in this day and age of high stakes testing, which is a whole other thing that I could talk about forever. But teachers need to know what their kids need, and honestly is just a matter of that. It's a matter of knowing what you can provide for these kids that's just going to give them a little bit extra. And sometimes I don't hear it very often these days, but I used to hear more, well, why is it fair that this child can have a question read aloud to them when this child cannot? Well, it's not, would you give a diabetic insulin, basically?
Yes.
Yes, you would. These are not things that are giving them a leg up in any shape or form.
They're
It's,
leveling the playing field.
if that.
If that,
Truly.
you're right.
If that. So, yes, knowing your kids' accommodations, knowing what they need, just by reading it off the IEP would be the first step. It's kind of important. But not only that, being open to trying different things, even if it's not written down on a piece of paper. I would love to see that happen more for kids. So,
yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think you're right. Like, I think the child deserves for you to do it. But you did say something that made me think about like you said, you understand that it's different for you than it is for a classroom teacher. Like how do you mean?
Well, I know that how hard it is, I think. I think I know. Again, I have had my own classroom. I taught self-contained ESE for several years, in fact, at the school that I'm currently at. So I have had my own class. But when I said that, I was more meaning that I try to have a good understanding on the demands of a teacher with 18 to 23 kids in a classroom, yet still having to provide for these individual needs. So in talking about accommodations, especially when I have a teacher who's actively planning with me or, helping me brainstorm for particular students in their room, I want to keep a perspective about what's doable, what's manageable.
Yes, okay, that makes sense.
For that teacher. Because if you're asking teachers that are managing 23 kids to do, frequency data, if you're talking about behavior, for example, frequency data on a child, and you want them to tally every 5 minutes, and some things are just not reasonable.
Yes, and because you're in there with like a variety of different personalities,
right?
And it's so time consuming.
It is.
I do think that when you're talking about like trying to figure out what's best for a child, I think you just have to do what it takes. Obviously, some things feel tedious when the point is to keep track of data.
Right.
That's the part where, for me, I ended up having a hard time with that aspect rather than let me just figure out what to do for the child. I don't want to try one thing for 3 weeks. I'm going to throw everything at them sometimes. And
Right.
sometimes I don't know what worked, but I kind of didn't care if something was working. If something was working, then I wanted to keep doing it. And so I didn't want to take the time to figure out specifically what it was because I wanted it to just keep working. The whole point was for it to work for the child.
It's gone, to me anyway, which if people could understand that that's working against it's working against the children, really, because it's causing the teachers frustration. It's making them think you're just having me jump through hoops for no reason. And truly, that it's not. There is a reason, but we've lost the reason.
Yes.
In the midst of all of the data collection and tiered interventions and following this procedure and that procedure, all well and good and all important in accountability, but we've lost sight.
Yes, that makes total sense. And then it does kind of create a you against me.
Yes,
feeling.
It does. And I can tell you that every Tuesday I sit in meetings and try to combat that you against me. Because honestly, teachers, for the most part, are coming in with good intentions to say, I've got this child that's struggling and I've done this, this, and this. And yet, a lot of times we have to look at them and say, well, but you haven't done it just this way, and this is the way that it has to be done for data collection purposes or for eligibility purposes. And to me, that it's just it's disappointing.
It is. It's disappointing. It makes it very difficult. And I think by nature, a lot of systems that we have going on currently, by nature, cause a pitting against each other kinds of a feeling, which is never beneficial for kids.
No.
And honestly, I can remember even many conversations I've had with you that helped me because we had a relationship, so it was easier to talk about things and disagree and like come back and figure things out together because we had a relationship.
Absolutely.
But it always brought like aha moments for me, and I think sometimes people walk into those meetings and they feel defensive.
Yes.
And so they instantly feel defensive, or they don't know and they are scared to say I don't know.
Right.
Which
That's
I kind of wish that would happen more often. Like I'm not sure what to do because they're not comprehending.
Absolutely. No, I do. I prefer that conversation than the,
You're
than
fake.
The other.
I'm fakely doing this.
Right.
And,
Right.
Yeah. How do you think that could be fixed, or at least go in a direction that would be more beneficial?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Actually, to be completely honest, I think that at this point I wish I could say that I had a good idea for how it could be fixed, but unfortunately I don't know. With the way education is today, with all of the demands that districts and states are putting on the value of testing, when that boils down to kids with special needs, it causes there's just a whole other huge effect of these tests.
I was going to ask about that actually. Like, how do you think that's impacting
these
kids in particular?
These kids, they can't show what they know all the time, because what they know is not necessarily going to be asked on a test the way that they understand, and you
can explain
exactly. And you can't change a child's brain to the point that they're going to. You can't create a child that ability to think a certain way or to express themselves in a certain way. I mean, at some point, it is their given ability, and we have to find ways. Because they're asking us to do that in the classroom. They're asking teachers every day. They're asking me as a special education teacher, find the way that works. Find the way that you can reach this kid, that you can teach this kid.
And then don't use it.
Yeah, but don't
and then
use
we're not
it
gonna,
on the test.
We're not going to assess it that way.
Right. Oh, you can't do that. That's a non-allowable accommodation on a state test. I mean, how much sense does that make?
No, it doesn't make sense. It's like that quote that they say about the fish having to climb a tree.
Yes, and when you've got kids, 10-year-olds sitting in front of you who can do an awesome, amazing job at, drawing a picture, or that they can build things that nobody could come close to building, but you put this test in front of them and they dissolve into tears and look at you and say, I can't read. I mean... Yeah,
and it reinforces the negative talk that they have in their own head about themselves.
Yes,
which I think is the most detrimental part.
And unfortunately, the testing is only getting more. I mean, we went from having, the FCAT once a year to then switch to FSA. Well, now not only do we have FSA, but we've got benchmarks every quarter that we have to take, and we've got the practice writing test to get ready for the actual writing. I mean,
it's a lot of practice tests to get ready for a test.
It is
what it feels like.
And so these ESE kids, are failing multiple times in multiple different ways because we're asking them to practice to get ready for the big real thing. So
we're asking them to climb a tree when they can't.
Right.
They can't.
They only can swim.
Yes, they can swim really well.
Yeah.
But we're not. Yes, you're right.
So I don't know that there's. Honestly, I wish I could answer that question better. Well, how could we make it better?
Well, one thing you just said would be to reduce the amount of testing,
yes,
or to allow assessment to be differentiated.
Yes, absolutely. And I taught in Texas for 8 years, and at the time that I taught in Texas, well, let me just say they're far and above Florida in their education system, in my opinion. Having been there, come to Florida and thought, wow, we've been doing the things that Florida's introducing as new. We've been doing forever in
wow.
Texas, in San Antonio. But anyway, the testing piece of it, Texas had a state test, but they also had an alternative assessment. And that was in my mind, it was absolutely the perfect scenario, because I got to choose, as their special education teacher, I got to choose, well, with a team of people, obviously, yes, what was an appropriate developmental level for that child. And that's the level of test that they took. And then my accountability, or the accountability of the teachers with the state, was that child the next year needed to show at least a year's growth on what would be the next year's assessment.
Okay.
And so if I had a 5th grader who was reading at a 3rd grade level and comprehending at a 3rd grade level, I would identify on that IEP that they would be taking, the 3rd grade level STAR assessment. And they then, at the next year's IEP, then we made sure that growth measured a year. And so that's how the accountability was still held.
That there was some that they were making growth and progress, but you weren't held to now they have to be on a 6th grade level.
No.
Really 5th grade, because they're in 5th grade. But then we were just going to go ahead and say the next grade level anyway,
right?
Because we might as well start teaching the next grade level at the end of the current grade level that we're in.
Absolutely.
That never made sense to me. No, that's a lot of those kinds of things are frustrating, and they are tiring. They think that's part of why we are tired. Like, I know that's part of why I felt tired as a teacher.
Absolutely. I'm tired. It's defeating, and that constant defeated feeling is exhausting. Yeah. So, yes, I'm tired also.
So, so if we could scale back on the assessments, if we could differentiate assessment, if we could, what do you think is the value of identifying kids? Like,
Well, that is a very important piece, and I do agree. Several years ago, we moved from, when identifying a student with a specific learning disability, there was, you had to look for a certain discrepancy, a certain point discrepancy in IQ and then ability. And that would automatically identify a student as having a learning disability. And that was years ago. That went away years ago, which I did agree with, and I do still agree with that. And the process of identifying kids with disabilities, I think, has improved. I think because we're looking more, and this is interesting now that I'm actually saying this out loud and thinking along these lines, we're not just looking at one test score now. We're looking at interventions that have been put into place and how the student responded. We're forcing, if you will, changes in methods of instruction. We're kind of pushing that envelope a little bit more. And I think that there have been kids that have come across, our table when we're looking at data and we're kind of trying to tease out, do we need to get further evaluations or not, that we've said, you know what, wow, look at what this teacher has done. They have put in place, and this kid is just, the growth is tremendous. So
wow. So that's a good part. That's
yes,
the good part.
It is. There is a good part. Now, I could also speak to the other extreme. When we're talking about students with behavior difficulties, a totally different story. I think the process is very broken, but again, that's a whole other
a whole other
issue.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I also think that sometimes, especially in the behavior area, that general education teachers don't have the information.
You're right. They don't.
I mean, there's not a lot of professional development
No.
done on the social emotional aspect or behavior or trauma or all those things. And I know those are buzzwords and people are talking about them, but are they talking about them enough? And are they telling them what this would look like in a classroom with 18, 23, 30 other students?
No, I don't think they are. And I think that proof of that is a day in a school. I mean, a day in a school is proof, at least in the school I'm in, which is, socioeconomically, we're in a pretty good place. But one day in our school would show exactly what you just said, that there's not enough knowledge and understanding about how these things are affecting kids in the classroom today, and how can a teacher of 18, 23 other students manage that. And there's not enough opportunities for those kinds of things. And
I don't think a lot of people know that's going on, though.
I don't know. I do
at
struggle
least
with that.
As far as outside of the walls of education. I don't feel like parents and the public and political whatever understand what's happening.
No, probably not. But if they just
took a moment.
If they just took 1 minute.
But I don't feel like they are taking a minute, and I think that's the problem. And that's why I feel like there's we're going to only be able to make real change. It's going to have to come from the ground up.
It does. It definitely does.
Because these politicians that promise these, they have no idea. But I mean, I also feel like it goes the other way too. Like, as far as we're concerned as teachers in the classroom, we're not aware of the bigger picture that administration deals with. True. And then they're not aware of what they deal with downtown, and on and on and on.
Right.
So I think it's a two-sided story for sure.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. I mean, I know that administrators are under, enormous amount of pressure for their schools to perform, and then of course that trickles down to the teachers. And as much as you would try not to do that, I can't imagine how.
I think it's human nature. When you put things in place like evaluations, and you're evaluating on things that, in my opinion, are unfair. When you're evaluating on things sometimes that you can't control, and you feel like you can't control things, or that you're not being heard, or that you're not being valued, I think human nature is going to show the worst side of people in those kind. I mean, like, it's a system to set you up for failure.
It absolutely is. Not just the kids anymore.
No, you're right. The teachers too.
The teachers too. So it definitely is going to have to be a ground up change, or a fundamental change somehow, at a level far above just the school, the school based and their decisions, to make these changes, because kids are different. I feel like we haven't kept up with the not just technology, but the time that these kids live in.
They live in such a different world.
So different. And I'm afraid that the people that are making the decisions aren't taking that into consideration enough.
I think you're right. And I think they do say technology, but I don't think they understand even the impact of social media on kids, and like how young they are when they're even exposed to things that we were never we couldn't even fathom
and
at that time.
It changes what a child expects to happen for them. I know that you have heard, and I know that it's out there, of the culture today is instant gratification, but you forget that. You forget that when your kids don't have to work too awfully hard anymore for much in terms of connecting with other people, because it's all instant. Anything you want to do, you take a picture of it, or you send a message immediately, or a video immediately.
I think it's true for us too. I mean,
it is.
I mean, take Amazon Prime as an example. I'm like, if I order something and it takes more than a few days or even a day, irritated. I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So,
and you know what? It's hilarious that you say that, because last night I was sitting at home and I'm like, oh, I'm out of milkshake straws. I need to order those. Ordered, just get on my computer and my straws will be here tomorrow. I mean,
I know it really it like makes you. It almost takes away a little bit of even problem solving.
It absolutely does.
Because I can think of the most ridiculous example of one time when my key fob didn't work to my car. Like, and you're so used to just clicking it and unlock, and I'm like, how am I going to get in my car? I mean, it's so ridiculous. Well, I could use the key, and some people can't use the key though. Now you've got cars that
don't have
push buttons.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. It's absolutely true. No, it definitely has changed the way kids interact in the classroom. It's changed the way they learn. It's changed the way we need to deliver instruction to them. Because, I mean, hey, I have a 17-year-old, and half the time I don't know what she's talking about technology-wise. So, and I
know they're really fast
around kids all the time, but geez. So.
You can actually major in that and still feel irrelevant just a couple months later.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So we know the things that make it hard and make it tiring, but what are some things that you still see, like glimmers of hope, where you feel you still have that feeling of I'm tired because I'm so excited about something?
Gotta really dig deep for that in my brain these days. I think that the glimmer of hope that I see has a lot to do with the people around me, the professionals around me that are working for kids, that are pouring their heart into things for kids. There are not a lot of them, and there are some of them that maybe are not doing it for the right reasons, whatever the case might be. But that glimmer of hope are the smart people, the smart adults who I come in contact with that want to provide trauma-informed care, training to teachers, that want to learn about growth mindset. They want to take these kids with special needs and really try to understand them and try to figure out how can we make them grow? How can we make them a successful contributing part of our community in the end?
Yes.
And so that's really the glimmer that I find these days, because those people are out there.
Absolutely. They absolutely are out there. And we've worked with some really amazing people.
Absolutely.
And you included.
Well,
so it's very, those are the bright, they keep pushing and they keep going. I don't know how long people are going to be able to continue that if they're always feeling the other way.
Yes, that's definitely a huge concern, because I know that there are a lot of good people that have, like you, that finally did reach their max. And I don't know why it hasn't happened to me. I mean, I think it has. I don't give what I used to give just because I feel defeated all the time. I feel like I'm up against like insurmountable odds.
Yes, that you can't. But I don't think that's true with kids. I think you still give with kids. I think you probably feel that way because it all feels so hard and like it's impossible. But I don't think that they, if I talk to them, I don't think that they would say that they can feel that from you.
Well, I hope not. I mean, I hope not. And I do get glimmers from kids, not just the adults, but I mean, when you have a kiddo who's struggling behaviorally and goes home to an environment that is not healthy, and you sit with them, and the other day I was working with this one particular kiddo and just trying to come up with a plan. I just want to get him through elementary school. He's in his 5th grade year, and he just has these few more months left, and I'm just like, dude, I just want to get you through without any more suspensions, no more trouble. And you sit with the kid and you come up with these things, and he goes to walk out the door, and this kid is hard. This is a hard kid, and he lives a hard life, and he goes home to an environment that's not what we consider to be a good environment, or is able to act the way he acts at his home. He has to change to be acceptable in the school environment, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting with this kid, and I'm like, buddy, we just help me out. We got to come up with something. What is it? And so limited conversation, but he gets up and he goes to the door, and he steps out, and he steps back in, and he says, "Thank you, Mrs. Maas."
Aww.
And that's the little glimmers. I don't get them all the time, and it's not a big deal to everybody, but when you know that this kid is not a kid that connects, and he's not a kid that is happy to be where he is, when he said thank you to me, I was like, that was worth it.
Yeah.
That was worth
That's
it.
the good tired.
Yeah, that's the good tired. That makes the tired go away for a little while, and so those are the good things.
So we've listened to some ways that like maybe that we could do things a little bit differently for students that need a little bit of extra. So one of the top things that I heard you say was that building rapport
Absolutely.
with kids. So that, and what are some suggestions for teachers to build rapport?
To be honest, the best rapport building for kids with disabilities, I feel like, is not academic. I think that the way you're going to build rapport is to seek out where they have a strength. And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be in the school arena. So you need to find out what they do on the weekends. You need to ask, what their favorite food is. You need to ask just the simple questions.
Yes.
And I know that it's hard to find time, but yet at the same time, we can't use that as an excuse.
No, you're right.
Because I watch the goings on of school, and I watch, teachers with their kids in the hallway as they're passing. There are moments. You can find those moments, and I can guarantee that if you hit on the right thing with a kid to connect with them, that it's just gonna open up a whole new world. But honestly, it's got to be. You have to look outside of the classroom a lot of times with these kids to find out how you can build rapport and connection. I ask my kids every week, how was your weekend? What did you do? Tell me one thing that you did. And you get a lot of, I played video games all day. Well, okay, so I have to dig a little deeper. Well, what'd you play? Who'd you play with? Things like that. But
and sometimes you're connecting over video games.
Sometimes you have to. And that is okay. And if that's what they're good at and that's what they love, then you find a way to do that. But honestly, just that, taking the time to make a personal connection has been my greatest method of success with kids. I'm not going to tell you that I consider myself to be a fabulous reading teacher. I don't have any magic answers for that. But the one answer that I have found is the more you can connect with a kid on a level outside of something that they struggle with, the better off you'll be.
That's excellent advice. I think that anyone can take that, and you're right. You have to find the moments because it's worth it. It saves you and the child especially in the end.
It really does. And sometimes it's, like I said, sometimes it's as little as, hey, I saw, you had a baseball shirt on yesterday. Do you like that team? Honestly, that's all it has to be sometimes.
Or the color green.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, this has been very helpful. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were here and that you were able to share some information, and hopefully teachers will really take this in consideration of how can I go back into my classroom and really work on building rapport with all my students, but especially with my students that really struggle in this area of school.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you. And thank you for sticking around today. And thank you for listening. Today's show has been all about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The things Nichole and I discussed were some hard tireds, such as over-testing and the impact on ESE kids and the implied divide between educators. But amongst those exhaustion-filled topics was the good tired, the kind of tired where you build rapport with kids whose journey may look different than other kids. It was about how to look at each other with respect and grace. I'd love to hear your thoughts on teaching. Give me a shout out on Instagram at TD Teaching, or visit my website at Trina Devery Teaching and Learning, One Tired Teacher, and leave a comment on today's show. Thanks again for listening. Hit subscribe if you'd like to hear more. Up next week, how to survive the weeks before winter break. This one tired teacher is ready to saw some logs. Keep doing what you're doing. Take care and sleep tight.